ports. There was only one oiler in the region. Why only one oiler? Well, when you go from 4,000 ships following World War II to 590 ships following the height of the Reagan buildup in 1986, to the morning of October 12, 2000, you're at 315 ships. There was one oiler, and it was actually up in the Arabian Gulf working with the Abraham Lincoln Battle Group that had relieved the George Washington that had gone by us and was now operating in the Mediterranean. There were two ports available, Djibouti on the east coast of Africa and Aden. Djibouti was considered a higher terrorist threat port, so that's why we pull into Aden. So, what happens? 8:30 in the morning, 12th of October, we start going up what's called a channel. That means it's deep enough for us to take a ship, make a series of right-hand turns. We're going to be at a pier out in the middle of the harbor. We go up, do that. I made a force protection decision that once I was in that inner harbor area, to turn the ship around so the bow is facing out so that if I need to get underway in a hurry, if necessary, I can even axe lines in order to get out of there. And that's exactly what we did. And by 9:30 in the morning, we are moored next to this pier, and we start going through the the import refueling checklist. At 10 o'clock, my main propulsion assistant comes up. This is an officer who had started out in the Navy as a fireman recruit, worked his way up to chief petty officer, promoted into the officer ranks. He comes up to my cabin and says, "Captain, the import refueling checklist is complete. I've made sure that the valves are all aligned properly. Sir, I'd ask you to just jump ahead of the checklist, go to the bottom and sign it." The chief engineer is going through her checklist right now, but we can speed things up because I'll be down waiting for her in the central control station, which is like the nerve center for the engineering plant. And as soon as she's done, boy, we can start going that much sooner. I said, boy, that is a great idea, but tell you what, no. The Admiral will appreciate this. We do things by the book when we refuel. Go back down, wait for the chief engineer, and when she's signed off, bring me the checklist. I will be the last to sign off, and we will start refueling the ship. Of course, being a good prior enlisted saber, as he was leaving my cabin, he was expressing his satisfaction with my logic. Unfortunately, though, that'd be the last time I'd see him alive. At 10:30, the chief engineer comes up, checklist is complete, I signed off on it, and a few minutes later, we started refueling USS Cole. At 10:40, my supply officer comes up and says, "Captain, I've got a great deal. The logistics agent for the port has arranged for us to have 3 garbage barges come out to the ship, and they'll take all of our trash, all of our hazardous material, and all of our plastics off, and they'll do it for $150. I said, "Wow, that is a good deal." "No." She gives me this curious look. I said, "We're not overflowing on everything. In 4 days, when I pull into the 5th Fleet headquarters in Bahrain, I can get rid of all that stuff for free. And let's face it, for $150, we're operating under a budget. We're pulling back into Norfolk in February. $150 is going to buy 2 foul weather jackets for the deck crew working outside." So like the MPA, she looks at me and says, "Captain, thank you so much for your professional guidance and leadership. I didn't understand this completely. I fully understand now." What does she do? She doesn't give up. She comes back 10 minutes later with reinforcements with the executive officer in tow, says, "Captain, this really is a good deal. It's a multi-million-dollar budget. Surely we can find $150 of efficiencies and knock this out." So I said, "Fine, I give. I don't want to hassle with it." Decision made, go bring the boats alongside. Supply officer grinned, walked outside and gave a whistle to the crew who had already stacked the garbage to the 2 boats that had already come alongside the ship, and they started unloading it. At that point, the executive officer informed me that the refueling rate that we had been expecting for the ship, which was supposed to be around 300 to 500 gallons per minute, was going to be much higher. Our initial rate coming on the ship was actually 2,500 gallons per minute. We actually had to holler down to the Yemeni fuel workers to tighten down the valve down to 2,000 gallons per minute. What we had thought was going to be a 6 to 8 hour time in port was actually going to be closer to only 2 to 2.5 hours. EXO had talked to the supply officer. We'd be able to open the mess line early, feed the crew, get the ship ready, and 30 minutes prior to refueling, we would station what they call the sea and anchor detail to get the ship underway, so that as soon as the engineers finished refueling the ship, we're going to be back out headed to sea where ships are going to be safe and where we belong. Go make the announcement, EXO, that's a great idea. He goes down to do that. I turn back to my desk. I was sitting at my desk doing routine paperwork when at 11:18 in the morning, there was a thunderous explosion. You could feel that entire 505 feet and 8,400 tons of guided missile destroyer quickly inbound and thrust up into the right. We seemed to hang in the air for a second before we came back down the water. We rocked from side to side. We surged fore and aft on the mooring lines. It was like someone had speared, with a spear in the side of the ship. It was this odd 3-dimensional flexing. The lights went out. Ceiling tiles just like this popped out and landed on my deck. A round table like this in my cabin that had coffee and water on it flipped over, spilling everywhere. I literally had to come balls of my feet, grabbing the underside of my desk as everything popped up about a foot and slammed back down. As soon as the ship stopped moving to a point that I could stand up, I went to the door of my cabin, and as I stood there and I looked down the passageway, there's no one around. What I see instead is this gray cloud round the corner and come rolling toward me. It silently washes over me. I could smell the dust, I could smell the fuel, but I could also smell an acrid tang in the air and couldn't identify what it was. A young officer that lived in the cabin or a stateroom right behind me comes out, grabs the door jamb, looks at me wide-eyed and using good sailor-like language, goes, "What the F was that?" Then he goes, "Fuel." Thinking we've had a fuel explosion, he takes off into that gray cloud to go down to the entrance to main engine room number 1 on the port side of the ship, because co-located by the entrance is the refueling lab where we control the flow of the fuel. I took one step out of my cabin to follow him and stopped. To this day, I don't know why, but I knew we had been attacked. When we pulled the ship in and moored its starboard side to the pier, if it had been an explosion because of fuel either on the ship or on the pier, I should have been blown left. Instead, I'd been thrust up into the right. The only thing on the left side of my ship is open harbor water, so I know something's come alongside. I go back into my cabin, unlock the safe where I kept the keys to the weapon systems. Missiles, guns, torpedoes. What did I pull out? 9mm. Loaded it, chambered around, decocked it, grabbed 2 clips of ammunition, dumped them in my pocket, took the gun, ran out of my cabin, out one deck, ran back to the middle of the ship. I'm still in a semi-enclosed area when I stopped and I looked toward the back end, toward the flight deck. Once again, no one is around. The watch team of 3 people that used to be there are gone. A wooden podium, about the same size as this one that was with the quarterdeck watch team there, has been blown into pieces and is now scattered across the deck. The wires that used to form our high-frequency radio antennas are snapped off and draped down, and there's this dirty black water dripping down off of everything. I don't know if we're going to be boarded. I don't know if there's going to be a follow-on attack. All I know is that I need to get to the port side and find out what's going on. But as I'm standing there with that 9mm, I suddenly think back